For the first time, more than 100 works from the couple's private art collection called the Dean Collection are on display at the Brooklyn Museum.
This is a portion of our collection.
We have grown all too used to marveling at the velvet life of our legends. We see them under the stadium lights, dripping in Cartier, stepping out of obsidian black limousines, looking like gods carved from stardust. We see that brilliant glory, and we assume that is the whole story. But today, I'm asking you to walk with me deep into the shadows. Past the awards mantles and the platinum records, we are going to crack open the doors of the bedrooms that were always kept locked, the places where the publicists weren't allowed to go. In these private sanctuaries, the diamonds disappear. In their place, we find the grotesque, the strange, objects so haunting they feel pulled from a fever dream. These weren't just hobbies. For the 5 icons we're discussing today, these collections were a ritual, a hard bargain with fate, a way to handle the crushing weight of being a black icon in an era that wanted to consume them whole. But before we step into the first locked room, I invite you to join our journey into the hidden side of history. Support the craft by hitting that like button and subscribing to join our circle of truth seekers. Your support ensures these stories, the ones the history books were too afraid to print, never fade back into the dark. The stage is set, the lights are dimming, and the first door is about to open. Let's get started. In the segregated pulse of the 1960s, Jackie Shane was the ultimate anomaly. A black, trans-feminine soul pioneer who stood 6 feet tall in high-heeled boots, staring down a world that wanted her invisible. But while the police waited outside the clubs to harass her, and the politicians went on television to clean up the streets, Jackie was busy, not just with the music, but with the collection. Hidden in her dressing room was a wooden chest. It wasn't filled with gold records or stage costumes. It was stuffed with over 2,000 handwritten letters, each one a ticking bomb, each one a confession of forbidden desire from the very architects of the status quo. We're talking about the pillars of society, white mayors, state senators, high court judges, men who by day signed the very laws that made Jackie's life a crime, men who used their power to keep the others in their place. But in the dead of night, those same hands, those same pens were trembling. They were writing to Jackie. They weren't writing as powerful men, they were writing as beggars. They were pouring out their secrets, their kinks, and their crushing loneliness into ink and sending it straight to the woman they publicly called a sinner. Jackie Shane didn't just collect letters, she collected leverage. She called it her insurance policy. She knew that as long as she held that box, she held the leash to the most powerful man in the country. It was the ultimate cosmic joke. The person pushed to the very edge of society was the only one who knew exactly how rotten the center truly was. She kept the box locked because in 1960s America, the truth wasn't just a secret, it was a weapon.
Forbidden Love, this collection asks, who was truly trapped Dehi, the honest artist or the powerful behind moral masks?
To understand Clarence Gatemouth Brown, you have to leave the city behind. You have to drift down into the dark, wet lungs of the South, where the trails disappear into the Louisiana mud, and the air is heavy with the scent of ancient curses. Gatemouth wasn't just a master of the guitar and the fiddle, he was a master of a different kind of kingdom. While other stars were collecting luxury watches or fine silk, Gatemouth was hunting for nature's Mistakes. He spent a lifetime building a collection of the grotesque, deformed, mutated reptile mummies, two-headed alligators, snakes with jagged extra crests, turtles born with shells that looked like human faces, all dried and preserved, like sacrificial idols in a temple of the forgotten. For Gatemouth, these weren't errors of biology. No, they were sacred. He believed that these mutated creatures were the only things on Earth that could hear the true frequency of the blues. He saw them as bridges, carrying sound from this world into the next. Inside his wooden shack, which smelled of rotting cedar and sharp herbs, he performed a ritual that would make a sane man's blood run cold. He would place these dried, two-headed corpses directly on top of his guitar speakers, right where the vibration was the strongest. He believed that as the speakers began to howl, the vibrations would wake the spirits trapped inside those leathery, mutated bodies. He didn't play for the crowds in New York or London. He played to wake the swamp gods. He once rasped to a friend, "When the wood starts to shake, they sing with me. Without these outcasts by my side, my music is just hollow, soulless noise." Clarence Gatemouth Brown chose to surround himself with the deformed because he knew what it was like to be a man on the margins. His collection was a desperate attempt to find a soul in the things the rest of the world had thrown away. In the golden age of soul, Solomon Burke was more than a singer. He was a sovereign. Weighing over 400 pounds, draped in ermine-trimmed capes, and seated upon a literal throne on stage, he was the king of rock and soul. His voice was a force of nature, a gospel-drenched thunder that could bring a stadium to its knees. But when the applause faded and the king retreated to his private mansion in Philadelphia, he didn't go alone. He retreated to his army. Walk with me, past the gold records and the velvet curtains, into the room where the king slept. There, surrounding his custom-designed bed, stood a silent, motionless guard, a row of life-sized plastic dolls. But these were no ordinary figures. Every single one was painted a deep, oily jet black, and their eyes, Solomon had them surgically hollowed out, leaving nothing but bottomless dark pits staring back from the other side of reality. To the outside world, it was a nightmare. To Solomon Burke, it was essential. You see, Solomon lived in a state of perpetual spiritual siege. He believed that the higher a black man rose in the world of fame, the more he became a target for the shadow things, curses, jealousy, the evil eye of a world that wanted to consume his gift and spit out his bones. He called this grotesque collection his scapegoat army. He believed in the ancient law of substitution, that a curse, like a heat-seeking missile, needs a target. So night after night, amidst the heavy, swirling clouds of frankincense and myrrh, the king performed a private, tormented ritual. He would converse with the eyeless dolls, murmuring his fears, his gout-ridden pain, and the crushing stress of his empire into their hollow plastic chests. In a legendary 1974 radio interview, the mask finally slipped. In a voice heavy with the exhaustion of a man who hadn't slept in years, Solomon confessed the truth. He said, "I keep those dolls in the room so they can take the fall for me. The demons out there don't care about the music, they want the soul. So I give them these hollow pieces of plastic to chew on, instead of my own heart." He believed that as long as his stunt doubles stood firm, as long as they took the hits of bad luck and sickness meant for him, he would wake up to see the sun. He spent his fortune buying more dolls, filling the room until there was barely space for a human to breathe. He was a king who commanded the airwaves, but was a prisoner to his own fears. Solomon Burke died in 2010 on a plane. halfway between two worlds. One wonders, in that final moment, if his plastic army was there to catch the fall, or if the king finally realized he had been fighting the shadows all alone.
Sometimes, a star doesn't hide fame, but disturbing truths that could bring an empire down.
Dionne Warwick was more than a singer. She was a monument, a 5-time Grammy winner, a queen of the Billboard charts, the embodiment of a flawless porcelain grace that seemed to defy time itself. For decades, the world looked at her and saw a goddess who would never wither. But for a black woman in the relentless glare of the spotlight, hair is not just an accessory, it is power, it is pride, it is life. And when the brutal machinery of time and the harsh chemicals of chemotherapy began to steal that power, the goddess began to crack. Hidden inside her secluded Beverly Hills estate in the early 90s, Dionne Warwick began a collection that was as beautiful as it was predatory. A kingdom of vitality wigs. But these weren't store-bought lace and synthetic fiber. No. She began a harvest, a silent midnight campaign to reclaim the youth that was slipping through her fingers. She would stand backstage, hidden in the shadows, watching the young dancers and rising starlets. She didn't want their autographs. She wanted their essence. With the precision of a surgeon and the stealth of a phantom, she used small silver scissors hidden in the palm of her hand, a congratulatory hug, a gentle adjustment of a collar, a motherly touch to a young girl's head, and snip, a lock of hair still warm with the sweat of glory, still smelling of vibrant youth, was gone. She gathered these trophies from the heads of the living. She brought them home to a room that never saw the sun, a room lined with black mirrors. There, her most trusted artisans, bound by blood oaths of silence, would weave these stolen strands into resurrection crowns. Imagine her, sitting alone in the deep night, surrounded by a dozen reflections of her own fading face. She would don these wigs, feeling the organic warmth of other women's lives pressing against her scalp. She believed, she truly believed that through meditation, the raging vitality of those healthy young bodies would seep into her blood, purifying her, pushing back the rot. She told her cousin Sissy one late night, while stroking a wig woven from 3 different dancers, "Sissy, look. This collection is still breathing. I am withering, but this hair is still alive. I'm just trying to keep my crown from falling into the black mud." It was a kingdom built of stolen strands, a desperate, beautiful, and cruel attempt to stay immortal in a world that only loves the young. Sylvia Robinson was a woman of steel. In a world that didn't even have a name for it yet, she birthed an empire. Sugar Hill Records wasn't just a label, it was a revolution. As the mother of hip-hop, Sylvia reigned over a kingdom of gold records, platinum plaques, and the first true stars of a global phenomenon. But behind the brilliant halo of the music industry lay a possessive obsession that bordered on suffocation. In the quiet halls of her New Jersey mansion, Sylvia was building a treasure trove that no bank could appraise, a collection cast from the actual biological remains of the people she loved. The jewels Sylvia cherished most weren't the diamonds bought on 47th Street, they were teeth. The baby teeth of her children, the molars of her grandchildren, and most hauntingly, the teeth of the artists and associates she held under her command. In her private sanctum, she kept a red velvet box filled with these jagged fragments of bone. She didn't just store them, she transformed them. She had each tooth painstakingly dipped in 24-karat gold, turning biological waste into sacred relics. She wore them, heavy necklaces of gold-plated human teeth pressed tight against her chest, resting right over her heartbeat. To Sylvia, this wasn't macabre, it was security. She believed the teeth were the hardest substance in the human body, the final part of a person that could resist the rot of time and the betrayal of the world. She once whispered to a young Angie Stone in a smoke-filled backstage corner, "A star can tear up a contract, a child can grow up and forget their roots, but when I keep a piece of their bone wrapped in gold, they are forever mine." She wore the gilded tribe around her neck like a leash of love. She believed that as long as those fragments of her family and her artists were physically touching her skin, the empire would never crumble. Betrayal would never find a way into Sugar Hill. It was a kingdom built on the fear of loss, where love wasn't a bond, it was a cage, and every tooth was a bar.
It makes us wonder whether fear of loss outweighs love, and whether trying to hold on forever only turns love into a cage.
The curtain is closing, but the shadows remain. We have traveled through the locked rooms of the King of Soul and stood amidst the black mirrors of pop royalty. We have seen that underneath the gold plating and the roaring applause, there is a human heart desperate to be protected. These stories remind us that even our greatest legends were just people searching for a way to stay whole in a world that wanted to break them apart. If you felt the weight of these secrets today, if you felt the chill of the velvet life, then you belong here with us. Before the lights go out, join our circle. Tap that subscribe button to unlock more deep dives into the hidden histories and dark legacies of the icons who shaped our world. Like this video if you believe the truth is more powerful than the myth, and leave a comment below. Tell me, which of these collections haunts you the most? Is it the eyeless army of Solomon Burke or the stolen vitality of Dionne Warwick? I'll be in the comments, waiting to hear your thoughts. Thank you for walking through the shadows with me. Until the next curtain rises, keep your eyes open and your doors locked.